YouTube? Welcome back to another episode of Curated Topics, brought to you by Curated Scents LLC. Alright, how's everybody doing, man? I hope you all had a great week last week. I apologize, I did not get this recording done in time. I actually had a lot of things going on last week, and I'm gonna tell you about it. So last week, hectic. We had a holiday, and during that holiday time I had planned to do this video, but I was under a deadline for something else. I have actually been working on a writing. I was asked to do a writing segment for a book that is being published later on this year. That's exciting. Sorry, I gotta turn my energy up. Hold on, y'all. I gotta turn my energy up. So your boy did a writing. You know, let me put a smile on my face. Your boy did a writing for a book, and it's gonna come out later this year. So I had that deadline, and at first I was like, oh yeah, I got this. You know, I can just pull it on out the brain anytime. And I went to sit down, and it took me a lot longer than I thought it would to actually get my thoughts out and, you know, get everything in order the way I wanted it to be in order and all of that. So that is why I did not come out with the recording this past week. I actually wanted to do this recording and give it its proper, you know, time and thought and all of that, because I'm actually covering kind of a big topic in this particular video. So, you know, I wanted to just make sure I sat with it and I got all my notes together and things like that. You know, I didn't want to just rush it and, you know, all of that. So I wanted to give you all exactly what it is that I think we need, and that is some TLC when it comes to this particular topic today, and I wanted to give it its just due. So that's why I took the week off, but did have a live last week. I hope you all can see it. I'm gonna have to get used to some of the copyright restrictions and things like that. I'm gonna have to really look into those. They said my video or my live stream was actually limited because there was a song that played, some Beyonce song. I don't even remember from what clip it came from, but I'm gonna make sure that moving forward I kind of pay attention to what's playing in the background and things like that, so that those things don't happen. I want people to be able to see the live streams. So, you know, even if you're not watching live, I want you to be able to see the whole video or see the video in general. So that's okay. We learn, we build it as we fly it. Hey, let's keep on going. But we're gonna start it off how we always do. Candle of the evening. We got boom, an Effin Vodka Bottle, and this is actually one of the 375 milliliter bottles, so this is like the pint size. But I made this for my room, and I really love the scent that's in here. So let's do the old smell test. So, oh my goodness, it's so woodsy and earthy and sweet. And the scent that I'm talking about is called Cherry Tobacco. Now, this is actually somewhat of a fan favorite over here at Curated Scents. Like I said, it's warm and it's earthy, and it has those woodsy aromas, and that comes from the tobacco and incense. And then it's finished off with this inviting and tart sweetness that comes from black cherry. This scent gives off the cozy vibes where you're sitting by the fire, and, you know, it smells very rustic, very fall type. But I think it's also good in the winter as well. It's very warm, and that kind of goes along with the earthiness and the woodsiness, and it gives you that warm feeling when you smell it, but it's not overpowering, it's not super pungent. And then that black cherry comes in right at the end to give it that kind of soft and sweet finish, and it is a wonderful candle. This is one of the ones I keep in my room when it's like just me, you know what I'm saying, and I'm just kind of chilling. I might be watching a show or something. I have this and I like that, and it's got the room just smelling good. It has me feeling good and relaxed as well. So check us out. That's CuratedScentsLLC.com. I promise You will not be disappointed. Check us out. We are working. We're actually going to be working with some content creators coming up soon, so stay on the lookout for that. I put up some videos from a couple of different figures and content creators who I have worked with. Shout out to Cavaliers, shout out to the Living Water Nurse, shout out to Tiana Von Johnson, shout out to Maggie the substitute teacher. We appreciate everybody, and we appreciate you all for allowing us to work with you all. But also, it's just been fun doing candles for various people. Also the business bully, just kind of me being the curator, picking these candles out, picking out the bottles that I want to use for each person, picking out the scent, because a lot of times they're like, well, just send me a scent, send me something you think I would like. So I actually have to kind of get a sense of who the people are and their kind of vibe and what they might like. Sometimes I ask them, what kind of scent do you like? But it's been very just intriguing and fun to kind of go out there and curate these sorts of things. So like I said, check us out, be on the lookout. We just had a giveaway that ended on Sunday the 22nd, and 3 lucky winners are going to get sent our number 1 scent, our most popular scent. So they're going to get those. We're going to do some other fun things this year with the candle business, but also we're going to tie in some other things with the channel as well. I want you all to be on the lookout for that. So just be on the lookout. Don't take my word for it. The results are going to speak for themselves. You all just be on the lookout for what's coming next. All right, I want to get into some sports real quick. I want to talk about the Cavs. I want to talk about some of the big changes they made. Now, I talked about this in my live, right? I talked about the acquisition of James Harden in my live. And when I talked about it, I had concerns. I talked about how, James Harden is kind of known for shrinking when it comes to the playoffs, when it comes to those pivotal moments in the playoffs. What am I talking about? I'm talking about game 6s, game 7s, those times when it could go either way. Either the team is going to win, or they have to battle it out to get the win, and James has a history of not showing up. Let me take that back. Not showing up, but just not performing to his normal level of excellence, right? A lot of people say that he shrinks in the playoffs. Now, I'm going to go with grace a little bit, especially after seeing his performance I think he's been here for maybe like 4 or 5 games. So after seeing his performances in those games, I'm going to go with grace. I like that we have him, because having someone of his caliber of play really increases our team offensively. It increases the playmaking because he has those abilities, right? So, we have adjusted our team, and we have some other players that we got to. I talked about Keon Ellis, and I talked about Dennis Schroeder. James being the most impactful of the acquisitions. I have mixed emotions about it. A lot of this was to fix what we let go of last year in the offseason. We had a lot of good chemistry with Ty Jerome. We had a lot of good chemistry with Isaac Okoro and DeAndre Hunter, and those guys, playing in that second unit and things like that. Now, we definitely did make an upgrade by getting James Harden. We definitely did. A lot of people who I've talked to about this have brought up, when I bring up my concerns, they bring up Darius Garland, and it wasn't so much about Darius Garland. It's more about James Harden. When I think of this, I look at the picture as a whole, and I look at the bigger picture of the season, not just the regular season play. Because, if it was just came down to the regular season, then yes, I'd be all in. You can say, oh yeah, get James Harden in a heartbeat, right? Because he's going to perform during that regular season. But where my concerns come in are in the playoffs. And that's the bigger picture for this team. We have no problem performing during the regular season. We've done so for, the last 4 or 5 years, ever since Donovan Mitchell came. But after that, where is the growth? Where is the forward movement when it comes to the playoffs and making a run at the NBA Finals, getting a championship for Cleveland, right? We don't want to be that team that's just known for making it to the first or second round and then we have some untimely exit. And that is the road that we're headed down. Dare I say we are already there. We made it to the second round last year, lost to the Indiana Pacers, who we probably should have beat. Let's just be honest. Now, we did have some injuries. We had those sorts of things, but we should have beat them. And I know we could have beat the Knicks team last year that the Pacers inevitably beat. So that would have been our road to the finals. And we were the number one team last year. This year has been a little bit different. We've been dealing with injuries, guys in and out the lineup, those sorts of things. And that's not all the way new for us, but our performance during those times is different. We have underperformed given those circumstances, whereas last year we were able to perform. And I bring that down to team chemistry. When we made those changes in the offseason and we got guys who, at this point, most of them aren't even here anymore, it was the team chemistry then. So what I'm hoping, at least for now, is that with the addition of James Harden, the addition of Dennis Schroeder and Keon Ellis, we kind of get that chemistry back again. And here's the thing that I do like. James, he's in his mode of where, his game is not really going to change too much, but it doesn't need to because it is effective. It is effective. His ability to get to the rim, his ability to score, his ability to shoot the three ball, that's all there. But what's most important, and what I think is going to be the biggest contributor to our team, is his ability to play make and get other guys involved. We have seen Jared Allen skyrocket in terms of points and usage. We've seen Mobley, his game is starting to develop more as well, and he's playing more at the rim, more in the post. And that's what I like to see. Our big guys, should not be just trying to shoot all threes, running the ball down and all that. Nah, we have a point guard. Let's utilize his skill set and let's get these guys some easy baskets. Let's get these guys easy baskets, because that is the way that we're going to score the ball. That's the way that we're going to be successful. We shouldn't just be living and dying by the three. Now, the other thing with James's playmaking, those guys who can shoot threes are going to be open now. You have to decide, all right, am I double teaming James Harden? When he does get the ball down to the centers, they can kick the ball out to the open three guy. There's going to be a lot more open shots for these guys now. And that's what I like. We saw Sam Merrill score, 20, 25 points in the last couple of games. I'm talking about each game. And that's because he's been open. That's because he's been getting the ball when he needs it, when he's able to score the basket. So I'm liking these. I'm liking these moves. I just want it to translate into the playoffs. We are looking good, and it's the regular season. But now I want us to take that and take it to the playoffs, play with the same level of execution and things like that, so that we can weather the storm from these other teams. And let's get the ball rolling. Let's go deeper, than the second round of the playoffs. So that's what I'm looking forward to. Just wanted to put that out there. Like I said, it's not that I dislike James Harden. I have concerns. I'm concerned about, all right, what are we doing in the playoffs? Last thing, I almost let that go. Now, what I do like about James Harden over Darius Garland, and this is no disrespect to DG, but I really like James Harden's size. Super crazy. Big pause. He is a lot taller than Darius Garland. He's at like 6'5", and a 6'5" point guard. He's going to be taller than most of the people guarding him. And he's also bigger than a lot of guards. So with that and his playmaking ability, you can hassle him a little bit, but James is going to be able to use his size, use his strength, and use his playmaking ability to affect the game a little bit more. It wasn't that DG was just soft. I don't want to put that out on him, but being 6 foot and being a smaller guy, especially on defense, that makes you a little bit of a liability. It does. With DG, his game is more around finesse. But if you take that away, there you have it. With James is about finesse too, but he can muscle it down there if he needs to. Pause. So I'm trying to look at the bigger picture here. I want us to be successful in the playoffs, and we'll see how it goes. I'm still hopeful for my Cavs. We're in 4th place right now. We just lost to OKC. Now OKC, that team is different. They beat us, and they didn't even have their 2 best players. Now we got off to a slow start in that game, and I think that was really the deciding factor. We were playing catch up the whole rest of the game. But let's see how we perform coming up. We have a tough schedule coming up. We play New York, then I think we play Detroit. And I want to see how we do in those few games, because that's really what's going to tell us where we are within the Eastern Conference. So pray for us, pray for my Cavs. I hope we do well. Let's move on. I want to get on to the topic. So for the motivational point tonight, we are in the emotional intelligence series, and that comes from this book here. Emotional Intelligence 2.0, and we are talking about the big picture. I mentioned that before. I don't know if y'all caught that. But we're talking about the big picture of emotional intelligence, right? So what is emotional intelligence? I've said this in a few of the other videos, but emotional intelligence is your ability to recognize and understand emotions in yourself and in others, and your ability to use that awareness to manage your behavior and relationships. Now, EQ, or emotional intelligence, it's a bit intangible. And that means it's not just, something you can physically touch. It can't just be readily measured. It can be considered quantifiable, but it's not just something where I'm like, okay, my IQ is this. I can't reach out and grab my emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence affects how we manage behavior. It affects how we navigate social complexities, and it affects how we make personal decisions. As a whole, EQ is basically how our choices affect our personal and professional success. It involves a person being able to accurately identify their emotions as they happen. And I'm not gonna lie, most people struggle with this. Studies show that 2 out of 3 of us are controlled by our emotions, and we are not yet skilled enough to recognize them as they're happening, or we're not skilled enough to use them to our benefit. Now, why is that? I think it's just because emotional awareness and understanding is not really taught in school, or at least it's not a regular part of curriculum. We spend most of our time in school focused on things involving our IQ. So we learn a lot of facts, and that's what's prioritized in school. But here's the thing. High IQ does not always determine success, and it's not correlated to having high emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence is actually distinct from intellect. That means there's no connection between the two. There's no connection between IQ and EQ. And you can't really use IQ to predict EQ. EQ is not based on simply intelligence. It's not based on your IQ. IQ is pretty fixed. It's actually fixed from birth, and IQ is about one's ability to learn. And it's about your ability to learn new information and facts. You don't really get smarter simply by memorizing new facts or new information. So IQ is not something that you develop. That's the best way to put it. IQ is not something that you develop. It is just something that you have from birth. Now, you can learn facts, but IQ is more about your ability to learn facts, your ability to take in new information. EQ is much more flexible, and it can be learned and developed over time. So it's something that you can work on. It is something that you can develop. Another thing that is not a predictor of EQ is personality. Why is that? Because personality becomes more stable over time. So it's not necessarily fixed, but as you go throughout your life, your personality becomes more fixed. And it's a style that over time defines us, but it's as a result of our personal preferences. So personality and IQ, they're not determinants of your EQ. Now, I will say this, you can use personality traits and you can use having a high IQ to help assist in your EQ development. Those you can do. There are certain traits within IQ and certain preferences that you have in your personality that can be used to make the development of EQ much more effective. Let's look at personality, for example. Let's say you're an extrovert. Because you're an extrovert, you're more sociable, you're more open-minded, and things like that. That can help when it comes to increasing your emotional intelligence. Just having intelligence alone, you can kind of pull on that intelligence to help you learn the skills to develop your EQ. I'm not saying that, by being intelligent, you'll have a high IQ, because that's not how that works. I'm going to go back to my young Sheldon example, where Sheldon is incredibly intelligent, but he is oftentimes ridiculed for not understanding the social cues, right? That's the basis of the whole show. That's the basis of the Big Bang Theory as well. Here it is, you have a guy who is probably one of the smartest human beings on the planet, but when it comes to social cues, social things, emotional intelligence, he almost has none. He almost has none. So that just goes to show you, IQ, you can have a high IQ, but that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to have a high EQ. Now, when it comes to trying to develop those skills, you certainly can use IQ to help develop your EQ. You can certainly use personality. And if you really want to get a true sense of a person, if you really want to see a person as a whole, you will look at all three. How smart are they? How emotionally intelligent are they? And then what is their personality like? That's the best way to get a picture of the whole person. Now, we talked about EQ and success. How does EQ impact success? It actually impacts success a lot. One would say, well, how? What about IQ? How come IQ doesn't impact success? IQ does impact success, but it's not simply about how smart you are. I think we have to think about how we define success. Success isn't just about the money you make. A lot of it is, but there are other aspects to success as well. How well liked are you? How good are your relationships with other people? Are you able to recognize what's going on with yourself and others? We are going to talk about pay, but EQ plays a part in all of that. EQ plays a part in all aspects of success. EQ is actually so critical to success that it accounts for about 58% of performance in all types of jobs. All types of jobs. Now, let's think about job interviews, right? Let's look at a job interview for an example. Most interviews, they really aren't about your technical skills on the job. I'd say it's about, I'll be generous. I'll give it 75-25, where 25% of the job interview, you're going to be asked questions about your technical skills or your past experiences, what qualifies you for the job, right? But then the other 75%, you're being asked questions pretty much about your social life or your emotional intelligence to see how are you going to fit into the culture of the job. Most of the time, you're going to be asked about how you manage various situations that take place within the workforce that require soft skills. This is the opportunity for upper management or the hiring manager to determine if you're going to be liked. Do I like this person? That's pretty much what you're aiming for when you're in a job interview. You want to be liked. Now, you want to be qualified as well, but like I said, I'd say 75 to 80% of that interview is, do we like this person? Are they going to fit in here? Fitting into the culture. That's going to be the most important thing to that upper management and to that hiring manager. EQ has been linked to most of the soft skills important for gaining and retaining employment, including time management, decision making, and communication skills. And those are all going to be important factors when it comes to an interview. Now, this actually has happened, I'd say recently, within the past 3 to 5 years, but most companies have actually changed their line of questioning during job interviews to include questions that evaluate soft skills or evaluate EQ. Social and emotional learning questions are used to determine how well liked a candidate might be amongst peers and upper management, and then how well a candidate fit into the culture of the job. There's emphasis on conflict resolution skills. So they want to see how someone handles disagreements. They want to see how you behave in times of high stress. And they ask you these questions. I have been through my last 2 or 3 interviews. Actually, I take that back. My last 5 interviews, I was asked some social and emotional learning questions that I had never had in interviews previous. And at the job I'm currently at, I actually asked them, hey, would you mind if you all send me these questions, so that I can prepare? This was before I got the job, but so I can prepare for other interviews. These questions were great. They threw me off guard a bit, and I actually had to sit and think and take the time to answer. I think that was a good thing because I got the job, but at the same time, they really focused on me, the person, versus me, what I do. They wanted to know what I would bring to the table, but they also wanted to know, okay, how much do we like this person? And that's where having a high EQ comes into play. A lot of times when you're on the job, you're going to be dealing with a variety of people, a large variety of people. So they want to know, okay, can this person read in between the lines? A lot of times things go unsaid. So can you recognize the tone of the room? Can you recognize what's going on? And also, can you control your own emotions? If you're having let's say you're having a stressful day, if you're angry today or what have you, are you able to communicate that? How do you handle those types of situations? That's what's important to a lot of companies nowadays. There's an emphasis on conflict resolution. How do you perform when you disagree with somebody? How do you handle disagreements? How do you handle that conflict? There's emphasis on teamwork skills and how you perform in a group setting. How do you work with others? How do you lead? If you're looked at as the team captain, how do you lead? Or how do you respond to authority? Someone else is the team captain. Well, how do you respond to them? All these are related to EQ. EQ is the highest predictor of performance in the workplace, and it's the strongest driver of leadership and personal excellence. So what does that mean? That means that by improving EQ, you can actually improve workplace performance. I'm gonna use myself as an example. When I started at my old job, they asked me the basic interview questions. Well, tell us about your past experience. Tell us this, tell us that. And I got the job. But when I started in the entry level position. My whole concern, even back then, and this is really my concern anywhere I go because it's always in my mind, I want to be taken seriously. So, I know I'm starting at an entry level position, but I am ambitious. I want to learn and I want to move forward. I was always getting pushback on reasons of why I couldn't move forward or things like that. When I would express those, I would express that, that want and need to move up. I started to get pushback at first. It wasn't until I started doing some emotional intelligence work where, okay, now I'm starting to get some results. I met with a mentor. I met with a couple of mentors. I met with a couple of advisors and coaches and things like that. Just asking them, hey, what are some things that I can do? Just some small things to help improve my emotional intelligence, but also help make me more successful in that field. And I took their advice, did what they told me, and implemented some of those things into my life and into my work life. And within 3.5 years, I had almost tripled my salary. I definitely doubled my salary. So by doing those things, I started to see more success. By improving my EQ, I started to see more success. That just goes to show you this is actually very important when it comes to navigating our adult lives. This life is about relationships, and having that emotional intelligence, understanding how to make better choices and navigate, start to see more success. So we see that, I'm going to throw this statistic out there. 90% of high performers have a high EQ. And people who develop their EQ, they tend to be more successful on the job because the two go hand in hand. A lot of the job is the management of egos. I hate to say it, but that it is what it is. A lot of you being on a job is going to be your management of egos. You're going to be working with other people. There are going to be people who are your peers. There are going to be people who are below you. If you're not in entry level, there's always going to be somebody who's below you. And unless you own the company, there's always going to be someone above you. And you have to manage those egos. You also have to manage your own ego. You might be in a higher position, but that doesn't necessarily give you license to, act like a dick. No, can't do that. So you have to be able to control your own emotional state, control your own ego as well. Yes, a job is about you being able to execute the job. Yeah, that's part of it. But it's also about dealing with the people around you, being aware of their emotional state and being able to manage that. You still have to manage going to work every day, even if there's somebody there who you don't like. You got somebody there, y'all disagree all the time. You still have to work with them. So you still have to figure out a way to work with them and work with them effectively. You got that boss that you just can't stand. Yeah, well, you're going to have to learn how to manage his ego because you don't want him breathing down your neck or causing issues for you simply because y'all don't like each other. So you have to figure out a way to get along. You have to use your emotional intelligence to keep the ball rolling. And then with yourself, you have to use your emotional intelligence to manage your own emotions. What if you come to work and you're just having a bad day? Well, you don't want to push that off onto other people. You don't want that to affect your work because you're angry or because you're sad or stressed. So knowing what emotions you're going through, knowing how to communicate those, and knowing how to deal with them or, manage them, that's what's going to lead to your success. There's a link between EQ and earning, and the link is so strong that increasing your EQ by like 1 point, it can result in a $1,300 salary increase. And this has been measured across all industries at every level and across the globe. I'm not just making this up. Like, this is coming from the book. This is coming from this book right here. So, there's a lot of research that has gone into this topic, and there's been a lot of research that has gone into measuring the levels of EQ alongside levels of success. So like I said, success isn't just about money, but EQ even helps you get more money. People work with the people that they like. Coaches coach the people that they like. Teachers, They want to teach the people that they like. People who mentor, advise. People are going to raise up the people that they like and value. So developing your EQ is the most effective way to increase your value in the eyes of others. And that's going to be your way to moving towards success. Now, I know this is only part 2 and I've kind of been saying the same things, but we're going to delve a little bit deeper into EQ and talk about some different things that will lead us towards success. There's another part of this particular chapter. I'm going to split them up into 2 videos because I didn't want to be so long-winded, but also I wanted to give this its just due. I feel like in this particular chapter, they kind of put a lot of information all at once, and the next part is kind of a lot to talk about as well. So I wanted to start off with the bigger picture part, and then we'll move on to the second part, which is talking about triggers and hijackings. That's going to be a big topic in and of itself, so I wanted to give that its own video. So we'll talk about that in the next video, but that's it for this part of the motivational piece. Let's move on to some music. Now, this album came out this weekend, and I'm not gonna lie, I am super excited about it. I've listened to it about 3 or 4 or 5 times already. It's got my favorite in it. Shout out to my boy Spitta. But the album of the week is called Spiral Staircases by Larry June and Currency, and the beats done by The Alchemist. Now, Alchemist has been on a run over the last year or 2. He is extending this into like a 2-year run. I would actually go on to say maybe 3. He did the album with Larry June and 2 Chainz last year. Then he did the album with Freddie Gibbs. He has been working with everybody as of late, and I'm loving it. This is another classic album from everyone involved. Larry June coming with the smooth swag, followed up by Currency. This is the perfect driving album. And like I said, it's smooth as always, from the beats all the way to the rhymes. And it's about time that Currency and Spitta put out an album together. I'm pretty sure they have something. I know they have done songs together before and things like that, but it is about time that they put out a whole project together where they are working together. Now, I will say this. I do wish it was a little bit longer. It's only about 7 songs. But what I will say, it ain't no skips on this. It ain't no skips. It's not really long enough to have skips, but it ain't no skips on this. I have thoroughly enjoyed this album. I put it on. It's one of those albums where I put it on and I'm listening, but I just let it go. Like when the first 2 listens, I really didn't know what any of the song titles were. I just let it go, and it transitions from song to song very well. At one point I didn't even realize a new song had come on. It's well put together and instant classic. As I said before, my favorite song is actually the last one. It's called Empty Pages, and that was actually a tough decision, not only because it's only 7 songs and I like each one, but really because I like each one. Like it was hard to pick a favorite song because of how seamless the album is. Like I said, when I put it on, I just kind of let it run. So I like the album as a whole. Great job to Larry June, The Alchemist, and Currency. I was waiting on something like this to come out, so this is gonna be heavy in my rotation. Anybody who knows me, they know I love me some smooth, like driving music, that stuff where I can just kind of be calm and chill too. Now don't get me wrong, I love my party songs too. Next video I'm about to talk about some things. I'm talking about another album where it's more party songs, but I'm not gonna give y'all too much. You'll have to check out the next video. But anyway, shout out to them. This was a great album. We're gonna close it on out. I want to say thank you to all my listeners. I appreciate all the feedback I've been receiving, everybody who hits me up in the background, all those sorts of things. Hey, come into the comments, let me know what y'all think. I want to hear you all's thoughts. If you have something to contribute, please do let me know. Let's start the conversation off, and I would do so because we build each other up over here. That's men, that's women, that's everybody. So thank you to all my subscribers. If you have not yet subscribed, please do so. We working over here, y'all. We build it as we fly it. Now, I have a couple of other things coming along. I'm going to be making some announcements because I have a project coming up in March, but I want you all to be a part of it. So what I think I'm going to do, either in my next video or coming up soon, I will be making an announcement about that project. So stay tuned, keep your eyes out, keep watch. And yeah, that's all I got for now. So like I always say, I will catch y'all on the next one. Have a good week, everybody.
Let's unbox a candle from Curated Scents LLC. I love me a good smelling candle, but I'm not going to have a candle inside my house that is not all natural and all clean ingredients, because the aroma and the smells that I'm ingesting is so important to me. This is an all natural, amazing smelling, relaxing, and healing candles. They are a Cleveland-based candle company, and they work with a licensed aromatherapist to create all natural, amazing smelling candles, which are specifically designed not to only fill our space with wonderful aromas, but also to promote relaxation throughout the olfactory system. They use recycled liquor and wine bottles as the vessel, and if that's not your thing, they also have other vessels as well. Make sure you give their page a follow, check them out. I am obsessed with how much of my space. I'll go ahead and show you the area where I put it. I put it in this area, and it made it smell in the whole entire house. So here's my living room, and I put it in here, and you can smell it literally all the way in my kitchen. They have the coolest designs, so this is an amazing gift idea, especially for those friends that have their specific drinks that they love to go to. Make sure you give them a follow and save this video to reference later.